Welcome back to our weekly live stream. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to talk about how to use have, has, and had. I hope this is a helpful lesson for many people. We're going to cover a lot of perfect tense, a challenging grammar point. So, as you join us live, please send us a hello message in the chat. I see lots of people there on YouTube already. Welcome. We're going to start Facebook in just a moment. So please join us, Facebook and YouTube. We're getting loaded up. While we wait, a couple of quick announcements. As always, you have free stuff that you can download to study from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you're watching on Facebook. There are free downloadable things. You can practice vocabulary, some expressions, some key questions with these as well too. So have a look at this stuff. That's announcement number one. Announcement number two, is the picture available? The Ask Alicia picture? Yeah, I see it there, that one, that's perfect. The other announcement is, please send me your questions. If you have grammar questions, vocabulary questions, culture questions, whatever, send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia, and I will maybe answer you. So please check it out. Okay, I see many people in the YouTube chat. Hi YouTube, Jose, Khan, Jonas, Arvind, Malcolm. Hello everybody. And on Facebook, many people there. Abdirahman, hello. Alioshar, Abdul, Elias, Mario. Hi everybody. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for liking and sharing the video. I hope that lots of people can join our lesson and get some good practice in. As I said, today we're going to look at using have, has, and had. This lesson is broken into two main parts this week. I'm going to talk about perfect tenses. I'm going to talk about present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. And then last, I'm going to talk about have for ownership and using it in responsibility patterns. So let's get started. There's a lot to cover. I'm going to share the lesson, and then I'm going to begin for this week. Woo-hoo, we have lots of people joining us. Welcome everybody from around the world. That is super cool. Okay, shared. Let's get going. Okay, let's begin with perfect tense. So perfect tense is, I think, a challenging grammar point for many learners. Some people, I read your comments, some people say there's no perfect tense in their language. So let's take a look first at present perfect tense. Present perfect tense. Present perfect tense is used, I'm going to cover two uses of present perfect tense in this lesson. So for each use of perfect tense, I've drawn this timeline so that you can kind of see when we use this grammar point. First, point number one. On this timeline, it's a little hard to see. On this timeline, this point here, this is now, the present. This direction is the future, and over here, the past. Use one of present perfect tense is for life experience at a non-specific point in the past. So it's hard to see on this whiteboard, but there's this kind of dotted blue line in the past here. So this means an action that happened in the past, but when the action happened is not important, or maybe we don't know exactly. So this is use one of present perfect. Use two with present perfect is for an action that started in the past and continues to the present, or the effects of that action continue to the present. So on the board here, I've shown it with this red line, yeah? So here, some action started in the past, and it continues to the present. So we use this with the progressive form of a verb, the ing form. So let's take a look at some example sentences. First let's look at how we make it with have and has. So to make present perfect tense, we'll start with our subject. So that means like I, or you, or we, or he, or she, and so on. Then we choose have or has, and we finish with the past participle form of a verb. The past participle form of a verb is something we have to study. We have to study this. This is a special verb type for each verb. So, when do we use have? When do we use has? Let's take a look at some example sentences. So, when your subject is I, or you, or we use have, as in this example. I have been to Thailand. I have been to Thailand. Here, I've used the verb have. This, been, is the past participle form of be. So, I have been to Thailand. Another example, she has never seen that movie. She has never seen that movie. Here, I used has. Why? Because the subject, if the subject of the sentence is she, he, or it, we have to use has. This sentence, I've used never as well. So point. To make this pattern negative, you can use not or never before the past participle verb. What's the difference between not and never? Never is an emphasis. It's like saying at no time, at no point in the past did this happen. So she has not seen that movie is also correct. She has never seen that movie is emphasized. We're emphasizing this thing. Okay, let's look at another one. This one uses the progressive form. He has been working here for 3 years. So in this sentence, I've used the same he has because my subject is he. My past participle verb is been. The verb that follows is in the progressive form, the next verb. Progressive means the ing form. He has been working here for 3 years. So when you use this one, number 2, meaning number 2, typically you'll use it with an expression like for 3 years or since 2001 or something like that to express when the action started. Okay, one more example and then we'll go to past perfect. We have had enough to eat. We have had enough to eat. So this one, many learners get confused when the verb is have. So the past participle form of the verb have is had. So we have had enough to eat. That means I'm full. I'm done eating. So this is present perfect tense. This is how we use have and has with this grammar. I don't see any questions, but please feel free to send your questions in the chat. I will try to answer live as much as possible. Hey, Masaya, cool. I have taken this class for 3 years. Perfect. Tan says she has been living here for 3 years. Great. Salifu, hi. This last week I haven't been in school. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Let's continue on to past perfect now. Many of you have asked me about past perfect, so I want to spend some time talking about this point and future perfect today. So let's talk about past perfect. Again, I want to share 2 ways that we use past perfect. First, to express the earlier of 2 past actions. So this is helpful when you are talking about a point in time in your past, like when you were in elementary school or when you were a university student, something like that. You have a past point in time and you want to talk about something before that. When you want to do that and clearly show which action was first, like here's your first action and here's your second action, use past perfect to express the earlier action and simple past tense to express the action closest to now. So for example, I had met him before you introduced us at the party. So this part, I had met him. This is past perfect tense. We make past perfect tense with subject, again, just like this. Subject plus had plus the past participle verb form. I had met him before you introduced us. So this, you introduced me and someone else, yeah? This happened here. You introduced us at the party. But before that, I met him. So we express this relationship with past perfect tense. Okay, if you have questions, just send them. Don't tell me you have a question, just send it in the chat. That's best for everybody. Okay, the second use of past perfect tense is continuing past action, something that was continuing in the past that was interrupted. Oh, so again, it's hard to see here, sorry. There's a dotted red line that goes to here, stopped. So interrupted means it was stopped or changed in some way. So, for example, an example with this, we'll see this with the progressive form. I had been studying, it's hard to see, I had been studying for 2 hours when my mom called. I had been studying for 2 hours when my mom called. So, points here. This part, I had been, follows this grammar pattern. I had been. Past participle verb is been. Studying then. So in use 2 of past perfect, this verb, the verb after your past participle form, is in the progressive or the continuous form, ing. Then we follow it with another past tense, a simple past tense expression. This is very common with this grammar too. When marks the point of interruption. Let's see, some questions are coming in, so these are my last ones. So if you have questions about this point, I will try to check. Byron, this morning refers to simple past or present perfect expression. It depends on the sentence. This morning alone can go in many different directions. It depends on your verb. So if you say, let's have a meeting this morning, it could mean in the future, or we met this morning, it could mean in the past. So it depends. Wow, there are lots of questions coming in. In past perfect, may I use I had? Yes, you may. So that's a very common question with this grammar point. Past perfect, if you want to use the verb have, the correct sentence is had. Like I had dinner by the time I got home is totally correct. I know it sounds strange to repeat that word like twice, but that's correct. So had is correct. Yes. Some other things. How often do people use past perfect tense? I would say it's not as common as like present perfect tense. It's hard to say how often, but my first reaction is that it's less commonly used than present perfect tense, but it's still very important to know. Andres, is it correct to say I would have been studied? No, it is not correct. Maybe I had been studying for 2 hours, for example. It depends on what you want to say. What is the difference between past perfect and past simple? I have some videos on the English Class 101 YouTube channel about that question. So please do a search on the channel. You can find some answers there. Okay. All right. Is Facebook okay? Okay. Let's take one quick break and then we'll continue to the future tense section. Alrighty, so in case you missed it earlier, I want to share a couple things you can find for free. If you're watching on YouTube, you can get these from the link below the video on YouTube. If you are watching on Facebook, you can get these from the link above the video, above the chat box there. These are, I won't show this one. These are vocabulary and phrases that you can use to talk about everyday life or just to work on building your vocabulary. So you can these are all in PDF form. You can choose whichever topic is interesting for you. So this is supermarkets, this is travel. This one is sports and exercise, and dining. But it says dining, but actually on the back, there's just food and expressions like for complimenting people when they cook. So this might be a nice one. Okie dokie. So please check that out below or above the video. If you're watching on YouTube, Instagram, please check YouTube or Facebook. Okay. All right, let's go let's see, a couple more questions are coming in. Can I explain, Sim says, can I explain why I had been studying for 2 hours when my mom called? Sure, I didn't break that down very well, did I? I did it quickly. Okay, let's look at this one again, and then we'll go to future tense, future perfect. This sentence here. Let's break this into like 2 parts, okay? So I had been studying. This part right here is my past perfect continuous. I had been studying. This part expresses my continuing action in the past. I was doing this thing. Here, for 2 hours, this tells me how long I continued that action. How long did that action continue? When, this word marks where the action stopped or was interrupted. My mom called. This thing is the past tense, simple past tense, one-time action that happened. So these are the parts of this sentence. Continuing action. How long did the action continue? Interruption point. Action that interrupted me. So I hope that that helps you. Okay. Can I use present perfect when action was in the past, but there is a connection with the present? Yeah, so like this for if the action, if you want to talk about an effect, yes. So something happened in the past and it continues, the effect continues, yes, please use present perfect. Okay, I'm going to go to future perfect now because this one is a little bit tricky. So let's look at a future perfect tense now, please. Facebook okay? Facebook okay. Okay. No, my Facebook is weird. Okay, let's continue to future perfect. Future perfect. So again, we have a timeline here. This timeline looks very similar to the present perfect timeline. Well, it might be a little difficult to see on your screen. But future perfect, let's talk about 2 ways that we use future perfect tense. Future perfect, number 1, is for finished life experience in the future. So this is kind of strange to think about. Finished life experience in the future. Example, by this time next year, I will have finished university. By this time next year, I will have finished university. So what is happening in this sentence? I have this future point in time. Here, I'll change my marker color so it's easier to see. Here's my future point in time. By this time next year. So it's now, March, end of March. So at this time next year, by this time next year, I will have finished university. So I'm talking about some finished life experience that I expect in the future. So that's what I'm trying to communicate with this blue dotted line here. It's in the future. So there's something I expect is going to happen at a future point in time. So what is happening in this sentence? In this sentence, let's focus on this part. I will have finished university. We have our subject. Then with future perfect, we use will have, and the past participle form of the verb again. I will have finished university. When we use this grammar point, we typically use an expression like this, by some point in time, by some future point in time. So please, let's be careful of this. I'm going to talk about prepositions with this grammar point. By shows like a deadline for something. So a deadline for a future action. By this time next year. So that means I'm going to do many things until this time next year, at which point I will have finished university. Ola on Facebook says, next year I will have finished my school. Excellent. That is very cool. Okay. On to another example sentence. Let's look at a weather example sentence. A weather example sentence. It will have stopped raining by tomorrow. It will have stopped raining by tomorrow. When we talk about the weather, we usually use it, yeah? Like it's sunny or it's cloudy or it's raining. When we want to talk about a prediction for the weather, future prediction, it will have stopped. Stopped is the past participle form of the verb. So I'm talking about this future experience with this grammar point. You could say like it will stop raining by tomorrow. The difference there, it will stop raining tomorrow, is like that sentence is like a prediction, like a guess. This is kind of more like an expectation. Like you're talking about something a little more concrete. You're kind of more sure. Okay, one more. We will not have saved enough money to buy a house by next year. So this is long and it's negative. So let's break this one down. So first, let's look at these two parts. By next year, first, at the end of the sentence, marks the deadline. So when is this going to happen? When is our deadline? So it's by next year. That's first. So that's our time period. We will not have saved. So here, I'm using the negative form of this grammar point. So maybe another way to say this sentence is by next year, I don't think I am going to have enough money to buy a house. That's what this sort of means. But it's more like we're kind of confident about this at this future point in time. We will not have saved enough money to buy a house. Okay. Some other questions. Is it necessary to use by tomorrow or only tomorrow? With this grammar point, generally there's some deadline, like by future point in time. So typically we see by used. When you're using use one, we typically use by to mark a point in time. I want to continue to the next preposition point about this though. Let's look at the second use of this. Second use of this. Again, I've marked this in red. It's kind of hard to see. It's an action that will be continuing in the future. That means this action isn't continuing now, or maybe it started recently, but in the future, at a future point in time, you want to talk about a continuing action. We do that with future perfect. Examples. In spring of 2022, I will have been working at this company for 10 years. So, again, this has two parts. Here's my time period, my future time period, in spring of 2022. So that's the time period I want to talk about. Then, I will have been working. So again, with point two, we're using the progressive form of the verb after the past participle. I will have been working. So using this future perfect shows I continued working, and I'm going to continue working. I will have been working at this company for 10 years. So again, this is another point here. We commonly talk about the total time period with an expression like for duration, for 10 years, for 8 hours, whatever. So again, future time period, continuing action. How long was the continuing action, or how long is the continuing action? Let's look at another example of this. This is a tricky point, I know. In August, he will have been living in France for 3 months. So again, we have these same parts to the sentence. In August, he will have been living. Progressive form here marks this future expectation, something we expect to continue in the future. How long? For 3 months is the total time here. So maybe you can see then too, in this case, we're using in. It's very common to use in for these progressive form patterns, yeah? Okay, last one. When she finishes her thesis, when she finishes her thesis, she will have been studying for 18 years. Okay, so this one's a little different. There's no in at the beginning of this sentence, but we still have all the information. When she finishes her thesis. So this is marking like kind of the end point. We can do this with this grammar too. We can mark kind of the end point, the expected end point for a continuing action with when. When she finishes. Please note this, when she finishes, this is in a present tense. When she finishes her thesis, she will have been studying for 18 years. So how long was the total time? 18 years. So at this point, when she finishes her thesis, she will have been studying. So these are the two uses of future perfect tense. This one's a little tricky. I wanted to introduce it quickly here. I think there's some videos on the YouTube channel about this grammar point. There are definitely videos on the channel about these two. So this is the hard part of the lesson is over. So I hope that it was helpful for you. Some questions. Arzu on Facebook says, how often do natives use future perfect in regular life? Again, it's hard to say exactly. I would say less often than past perfect tense. But this is something that we use when we are making plans for the future. This can be at work. It could be like vacation plans. It could be social plans. We use it when we're making schedules and so on. So of course, it's still very important to study this grammar point. In the last example, why didn't you use will? I did use will. She will have been studying. So we always use will with the future perfect tense. She will have been studying for 18 years. Okay. I don't see other questions yet. Okay. Long time for a thesis, yeah. I said 18 years to mean from like elementary school to like master's degree or something. What was it? I think master's degree was what I chose. Okay, let's take one more break. Let's take one more break and then I'll finish the last points. The last points are easier, so you can relax a bit. I'll show you some things I haven't shown you so far today. Some other PDFs that you can pick up are the Around Town PDF. This one is about words, expressions you can use in your city for giving like directions and things. Are you going to Zoom or no? No Zoom? Never mind. Okay, this one's for emergency expressions. So you can take a look at this. On the back side are some full phrases that you can use. Oh, I asked if you were going to Zoom. That's okay. And then some other ones. For those of you interested in music, I know this one, hard to see, sorry. This one says singing, I know, but this actually on the back has lots and lots of music-related phrases, music expressions. Hard to see. So if you want to check these out, I know it's really hard to see, just click on the link or above or below the video, and you can just check and download the ones that you want. This is free. Okay. Let's go to the last part of our lesson today. If you're just joining us, today's topic is how to use have, has, and had. So I've covered perfect tenses. Now I'm going to talk about ownership and responsibilities. So this will be something I think beginners know a bit about. Okie dokie. So let's go to that and then we'll finish up. Send your questions, of course. I will try to check everything in as much as possible. So let's take a look. Ownership. When we want to talk about something we own, like this, like I have this marker, or I have this paper. We use have to do that, depending on the subject. Again, if your subject is I or you or we, please use have. I have, you have, we have. If your subject is he, she, or it, please use has. Follow it with your object. Examples. I have time to talk. I have time to talk. If the subject is he, she, or it, has. She has 2 pets. So this is my object. After the verb is my object. He doesn't have a job. To make your sentence negative, please use do not or does not. I do not have. He does not have. To reduce it, doesn't or don't if your subject is I. So we use this for ownership in the present form. So this is present form. Let's look at using had here. If you want to talk about the past, something you owned in the past, use had. The subject does not matter here. I had, he had, she had. Use had for everything. I had a nice lunch. Or he had a dog when he was a kid. So please use had to express ownership in the past. Had goes here. Final point for today is responsibilities. Responsibilities. I think many of you know have to or has to. Subject has to something. So in this sentence, or in this pattern, please use the infinitive form of the verb. Infinitive form is the dictionary form, the type you see when you check the dictionary. So subject has infinitive verb, has to infinitive verb. For example, I have to work. If your subject is I, you, we, I have to work, infinitive form. Last ones. She has to go to the bank. We don't have to leave yet. To make it negative, again, do not or does not. These follow the same rules in terms of the negative form. Lastly, for past responsibilities, again, just use had, but add to. Subject had to, infinitive verb. Sorry, I had to leave early. Or he had to run for the train. So we're talking about responsibilities here. Had for the past, have to or has to for the present. I have to finish the live stream. So I will end it there. Grammar is very complicated, yes, I know, but it's exciting because grammar rules don't change. So just learn the grammar and then you can focus on vocabulary, yeah? Okay, I have to finish there. So thank you very much for joining us in this week's lesson. There is a chance there will be no live stream next week, but we are working on some solutions, so we hope that you will join us again in the future. If we are able to have a live stream next week, the topic is going to be, I believe, should or shouldn't, how to use should or shouldn't. I put it out on Twitter, the schedule. For the next couple of weeks. I think it was should or shouldn't. Let me check. Sorry, my internet's going slow. But anyway, we will see you again soon. Please, if you want to continue studying, make sure to download a couple things. Pick it up, check it out. Of course, you can always watch our videos, so you can take a look and see what sounds good for you. We have lots of grammar and vocabulary videos. So I will say goodbye for this week now. I hope that you are well. Be well. Take care. Thank you very much for liking and sharing the video, and we will see you again soon.